Let's preview Week 12 of the Sun Belt. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We'll preview over the first two segments. Week 12, we'll look at potential upsets. And then the Panthers, Georgia State had a meltdown against Jacksonville State. Panthers off to a bad start. Troy is wrapping up against Arkansas State. They're going to have more turnovers than field goals made. And Louisiana is getting their doors blown off by Houston. Good night for Sunbelt Hoops. Oops. Well, let's turn off the TV. Let's turn off the phone. Again, new phone. Who dis? All right, there we go. All right, so let's talk about Week 12. We do have three big ball games in there. You got South Alabama going to the Cajuns. You got Coastal Carolina going to Marshall. Marshall still has an absolute shot at winning the East, and Coastal Carolina is going to have a lot to say about that, right? They get Marshall this week, and then they get Georgia Southern next week. And then you have James Madison and Old Dominion. Can Old Dominion get back in to the race? James Madison with a couple of losses. So does ODU, but I think ODU has some tiebreakers in there. So let's start off with the big ball game. Is obviously the Cajuns taking on South Alabama. This is a 9. Well, it was. I thought it was like 9. It's now down to 7. Cajuns are a 7-point favorite. Don't make any mistake about it. South Alabama can win this football game. I don't think they will, but they can. They went into App State, and it's two different things, I know. And they embarrassed the Mountaineers. They are a high-powered offense. Can the Cajuns slow down Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell and Kentrell Bullock? That's a tall task. That is not going to be easy. The thing is that I don't think South Alabama's defense is nearly what the Cajuns' defense is. And that's an issue because the Cajuns are one, if not the most balanced team in terms of offense and defense. Scoring-wise, South Alabama leads the conference in scoring. No surprise there. They put up 87 points against Northwestern State. Cajuns are less than a point behind them. South Alabama, 35.6. James Madison is second, 35.3. And the Cajuns, 35.2. Defensively, James Madison actually leads the way, about 16.5 points. Cajuns are 21.8 points. South Alabama is right there, fifth. They're not bad, 24.8. Now let's look at the totals in terms of yardage. This is number 1 offense versus the number 2 offense. And they are really close yards per ball game. 457.1 for the Cajuns, 455.1 for South Alabama. All right. South Alabama is going to do more on the ground. Cajuns are going to do more in the air. Cajuns have a grand total of 18 more yards offensively than South Alabama. Difference is the Cajuns are only giving up 335 yards a game. South Alabama is giving up 391 yards a game. That's the difference between 2nd and 7th. I don't feel this is a turnover ball game, although the Cajuns against Arkansas State flipped on a turnover that didn't happen, right? Somehow the Cajuns recovered a Ben Woldridge fumble, scored on the next play. Arkansas State got 1 first down, then they punted after that, and then the Cajuns scored on the ensuing possession, and a 10-0 game was 24-0 in about 6 minutes of game time. All right, I think the Cajuns win this ball game. I think they're better. I think South Alabama is good. Again, going on the road, they went on the road to App State. I was going to say you could see what it would be like if they go on the road. Where else have they played on the road this year? They lost at Ohio, but Gio Lopez didn't play in that ball game. Obviously, LSU is LSU. They did not play well at Arkansas State. They played okay against Troy. They beat up Monroe, and then they did lose to Georgia Southern in a ball game that they should not have lost. They let that one get away, and that was at home. That's going to be an issue if they don't get to a bowl game, because they should have beaten Georgia Southern. All right, the other big ball games, as we mentioned, Coastal Carolina and Marshall. Again, Marshall 4-1 along with Georgia Southern. We know the Marshall meltdown allowed Georgia Southern to win that ball game, and so the Eagles have the tiebreaker atop the East. But again, Marshall wants to keep up just in case Georgia Southern slips up. Marshall's hosting Coastal Carolina. That's a 9.5-point spread. That seems like a lot. Coastal Carolina played a whale of a ball game last week. Marshall has been playing better. Someone commented that they are the best team in the Sun Belt Conference. I don't think so. I think they're pretty good. I don't think they're the best team just yet. Their losses are kind of respectable losses: 31-14 to Virginia Tech and 49-14 to Ohio State. Obviously, that loss, I don't know if you lose sleep over that loss against Marshall or against Georgia Southern. Can't do anything about it. You do beat up Georgia State pretty good. Hung on against Monroe and then hammered a Southern Miss on the road. It's not that big of a point spread. I think Marshall is probably going to cover. That's a 2-point. The thing is, it's like a 2-score game. It's interesting. All right. That's a 2-score game. Braylon Braxton has been playing pretty well, and Marshall is running the ball better than they had been with A.J. Turner, almost 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. The other ball game in the East is Old Dominion taking on James Madison. Old Dominion having an odd season, right? They're 3-2 in the Sun Belt, but 4-5 overall. And I mean, they do not have an easy schedule if they want to go bowling. They're hosting James Madison, they're hosting Marshall, and they're at Arkansas State. They got to win 2 of those 3 ball games. They almost took down James Madison last year. This ball game is on ESPNU, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. It's a big ball game for ODU. They had a 3-game winning streak. They lost to App State. They had the week off. Let's see how they come out at home with Colton Joseph leading the way. The other ball games, what a difference like a month makes, right? For ULM, they are going to Auburn, all right? And I thought a few weeks ago that they would have a shot in this ball game. I don't. Auburn is a 24-point favorite, and Peyton Thorne is banged up, right? The Auburn quarterback, but they really shouldn't be passing the football all that much, all right? Texas State beat ULM 38-17 with them completing 8 out of 14 passes. They threw 14 passes. Texas State rushed it 54 times. If Peyton Thorne throws the ball 15 times against ULM, that is coaching malpractice for Hugh Freeze. I'm just saying. Jacquez Hunter and company, run the ball. That's it. Just run the ball. G.J. Kinney took Jordan McLeod out because they were so effective offensively, and he had a bum ankle. And Brad Jackson went in there and was outstanding running the football. Didn't need to pass it. They had a 28-0 lead. Got a little dicey in there, but they scored late. And Texas State with a rather comfortable victory against ULM. A couple weeks ago, I thought ULM would have a shot. I don't at this point in time. See if they can compete. Certainly would be a shocking victory. And if they, remember ULM beat, they beat Nick Saban in Alabama, right? It wasn't LSU. It was Nick Saban at Alabama. If ULM goes into Auburn and beats Auburn, I think something has happened. And here's the issue with ULM. They just haven't been able to pass the football, right? They don't have much of a passing game whatsoever. You can go back to the first 2 games of the year, and it was General Booty. They won. They put up 62 points, and they didn't combine for 200 yards. The wins are important, but if things aren't going your way all the time and you can't, you fall behind by a little bit and you can't throw the football, you end up going for it, on your own, 33-yard line, and you give up a touchdown because you need a first down. So I I don't think Auburn has much chance or ULM has much chance. They may cover because Auburn is, well, Auburn's not very good. Period. End of story. We'll see what happens in this ball game. We will come back. We'll talk about the rest of the Sun Belt and who can pull off an upset. All right. Who can pull off an upset? I wanted to say, I didn't see what that line was with JMU. Is that I presume JMU is favored. JMU is favored on the road at Old Dominion. All right. Old Dominion is your home underdog. We do have Troy at Georgia Southern and a Southern Miss at Texas State and Arkansas State at Georgia State. We'll talk about those ball games and any potential upsets in the Sun Belt when we come back and after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win the first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's look at some of those other ball games. We mentioned this is a trap game. This would be your trap game for Georgia Southern, right? Excuse me. They got a big ball game next week at Coastal Carolina. Troy is not very good. Troy is coming off Troy's coming off their best game of the season with a big win, with a week off in there. But this got trap game written all over it for Georgia Southern. Like they're going to look ahead to Coastal Carolina, and they absolutely should not. I want to see if Troy is going to compete in this ball game. Georgia Southern is a 7.5-point favorite. That's surprisingly low. All right, so I would take Georgia Southern to cover, but I want to see if Troy can compete. Again, I know it's about winning, but Troy, as we've mentioned, is going up against the leaders of the Eastern Division and the leaders of the Western Division in back-to-back weeks. And what we mentioned about Del McGee, finding out about what his team needs and what his athletic department needs, Jared Parker's going through the same thing, and now he's going to find out. He's going to find out, what does Georgia Southern have that we don't have? What do the Cajuns have that we don't have in terms of players? Can't do anything about facilities, at least not immediately, but you can do something about the players as quickly as possible in terms of recruiting and the transfer portal. So I just want to see if Troy's competing. If Troy gets their doors blown off, that's going to be not great in the next two ball games. They got Southern Miss at the end. That should be a victory, but let's see if they can compete. I don't think they'll beat Georgia Southern. I don't think they'll beat the Cajuns, but I want to see if they can, make the Eagles sweat, make the Cajuns sweat, right? Because all the pressure is on Georgia Southern and the Cajuns. All right, so that's what I want to see. See if Troy can compete in this ball game. Texas State hosting Southern Miss. It's 26.5-point spread. Texas State is favored at home. This game won't be close. Southern Miss just fired their offensive coordinator. Texas State impressed me. All right, I wondered if they had the maturity to take down ULM, and I know these coaches don't talk about the weather and whatever the case may be. They knew the weather was coming, or even if they didn't, and it showed up there, they changed their game plan, I think, and just ran the football, and they ran over and through and around ULM. So that's a good job by G.J. Kinney. They can still have a pretty special season, all right? It didn't turn out the way that I thought or most people thought it was gonna, but they can still finish up pretty strong, right? There's no reason why they can't finish up with 8 wins. They got Southern Miss and Georgia State. That's 2 of the 3 worst teams in the conference, right? With Troy maybe being the other one, and then, App State's a different story. But they absolutely can get to 7. And can you go out and beat South Alabama? And all of a sudden you got 8 wins. And if you win a bowl game, that's 9. It's a great season for Texas State, a pretty good one, right? It's disappointing because of loss. You still haven't beaten the Cajuns. I get it. But there is a sense of maturity if they do finish up really strong, and you can take that into next season, all right, and learn from it. That it's every play. It's cliche, right? We got to get this first down, and then we got to get another first down, then we got to score a touchdown, then we got to stop them, and then we got to score again, right? And it's the next play, and not necessarily the next game. And so everybody learns. We mentioned this the other day, about my guy Fran Brown at Syracuse, and I know GJ Kinney's got a few more years of experience. Still not a whole lot as a head coach. All right. And these guys are continuing to learn, and they learn on the job. All right. It's one of the few places where, the amount of training that a doctor goes through before he's allowed or her allowed to do it on their own. Head coach is you go. All right. And so you don't get a whole lot of training, if any, when you're becoming a head coach. So, Southern Miss is what it is. It is what it is. And we'll see who they name as head coach. But as of right now, I think Texas State is going to win that ball game rather easily in San Marcos. And let's see who and the other ball game again was. We did ULM and Monroe. You got Georgia State hosting Arkansas State. So now this is where the maturity level comes in for Arkansas State. Georgia State is actually a 2.5-point favorite. Wow. All right. Georgia State doesn't have any wins in the Sun Belt. They're not particularly good. I think they have their quarterback. But this is about Arkansas State's maturity. Can they go into Georgia State and beat a team that they should beat, right? And that makes them bowl eligible. This is the same thing about Texas State going into Monroe. You're better than they are. Can you beat them? Arkansas State is better than Georgia State, and I don't think it's by a little bit. Arkansas State doesn't play very well on the road. That game spiraled out of control against the Cajuns. They should go into Georgia State and win. Technically, that's picking an upset. Not a very big one in my mind. But I think Arkansas State's going to win that one. Obviously, a win for Georgia State gets Del McGee and his Panthers off the schneid, picking up a Sun Belt win. All right. Big ball game for both teams. I don't think the big ball games, well, I think ODU is going to win that ball game. I think Old Dominion is going to win that ball game against JMU. That's at home. They almost beat them last year, I think. And I think Marshall will beat Coastal, and I think the Cajuns will beat South Alabama. Again, I think Marshall and the Cajuns will be 1 or 2 score ball games. I don't think either one of them is going to be a blowout. And same thing with ODU and JMU. All right. I think we'll see what ODU can do against Alonzo Barnett III. There's Alonzo Barnett II. Now I'm confusing myself. So that's what it'll be. Let's see. It is the 3rd. I was right. Okay. I was right. So we'll see what happens there. And then you do have some big ball games next week, again, with Georgia Southern going to Coastal Carolina. And we'll see what happens with Marshall taking on Coastal Carolina this weekend. All right. All right. Let's take a time out. We'll talk hoops. Again, we're doing week 12 preview for Thursday, which would normally be Friday's show. We're expecting a special guest. All right. It's very specific to one school. The name of the podcast that we'll be promoting is Slaying Goliath. I don't think it's a really big secret, but plans change. So we will see if it all works out. I may be working late. Hopefully it all works out. So that's why we're doing this a day early. So bear with us. Hopefully it'll be a good episode for Friday's episode. A special guest will be planning to join us. We'll see if it all works out. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back. We will talk Sunbelt hoops. It wasn't a good night for Sunbelt hoops. It got ugly. Oh man, it got ugly. We will talk about that when we come back, right after I tell you about Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks. That makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With your priority Game Time picks, curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. And then you get that all-in pricing. When you toggle that feature, it shows the total up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkouts. You get to see where you're sitting. You get that panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And Game Time tickets gives you the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Ugly, ugly night in Sunbelt hoops, and it was not just one team. I saw the three teams that lost. We'll go over the scoreboard here, but Georgia State was up first, and they were playing pretty well against Jacksonville State on the road in Alabama, and Georgia State was ahead for most of the ball game. I think I saw the stat. Let me see if I have it. I tweeted it out. I thought I tweeted out the stats that, Jacksonville State led for 1 minute and 41 seconds. That would be the last. Well, I think they had a 14-13 lead, but they led for 1 minute, 41 minutes. 1 minute, 41 seconds. That's it. Georgia State almost led for over 37 minutes. This was 63-50. Georgia State with 7 minutes left to go. Georgia State proceeded to miss their last 11 field goals. They scored a grand total of 4 more points. They managed to lose a game they were leading by 13 with 7 minutes left to go and lost by 5. That's a problem. That's learning how to win, and they haven't figured it out yet. That's an ugly loss. It's one thing to compete and have a game going back and forth. I'm going to take a wild stab here that Jacksonville State was favored, right? Jacksonville State was probably favored by a little bit, so they probably covered. No, it doesn't say. I figured they would cover. But Jacksonville State won 72-67 in a ball game that Georgia State should have absolutely won. That's a bad loss for the Panthers. There's no other way of saying it. That's just a bad loss. Let's see some of the box scores here. They did have three. Panthers did have 3 guys in double figures. Tenari Lane had 17 points. Malachi Brown had 15 points and 4 assists and 4 rebounds and 2 steals. Zarik Nutter had 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists. But they went ice cold at the end of the ball game. Shot a grand total of 35%, just under that for the entire game. And that's just a ball game that you can't lose. You can't lose. You have to win. You have to figure out a way to win that ball game, and they did not. In a game that I had taken, and it somehow an ugly ball game got uglier for Troy. Arkansas beats Troy 65-49. Troy led this ball game 27-26. They managed to do that with 11 field goals in the first half and 11 turnovers. Somehow they managed to have more turnovers in the second half. They finished with 24 turnovers total. So that's 13 turnovers in the second half. They had a grand total of 21 field goals. That's an ugly ball game. I don't know what Troy was trying to do. Offensively, they can't make threes. Arkansas can't shoot either, by the way. Arkansas shot probably much better in the second half. Overall, shot 43%. Troy played pretty good defense, but Arkansas missed a ton of wide open shots. Troy is throwing passes behind their back. It was an ugly performance by Troy. I think Troy is better than what they showed tonight. I'm not sure what happened. They forced 14 turnovers from Arkansas, but 24 is just way too much. That's an ugly loss. They didn't shoot free throws well. They shot 3 of 19 from 3. I guess Arkansas got the 3 going. I mean, they shot 43. Arkansas shot better from 3 than they did from 2. Arkansas heated up from 3. They made 10 3-pointers. So, lot of those may have been late, but Troy, I wouldn't say let that one slip away. They just did not play. If you're going to go into Bud Walton Arena and beat Arkansas, you got to play extremely well. And I don't think mucking it up is playing extremely well. They did not shoot the ball well. I thought Arkansas missed a bunch of wide open shots, and they turned the ball over way too much. And that was the first half, and they were leading. All right. Arkansas all of a sudden makes some shots, and they get blown out. So not a great night by Troy. It'll be interesting to see what they are when they play in the Sun Belt. Scott Cross, they have a bunch of guys back. Scott Cross, big Scott Cross fan, but that was not one of their best efforts. Not at all. The Cajuns, meanwhile, not really good at all either. They were in Houston taking on the number, 8th ranked Cougars. They got blown out 91-45, 51-25 at half. I mean, they don't have Katinge. They don't have Hardy. This was not going to be a competitive ball game, and guess what? It was not. A game that was competitive was NC State and Coastal Carolina. Did I say that right? NC State and Coastal Carolina. NC State wins 82-70, but it was 35-30 at half, and NC State pulls away in the second half. So much more competitive. Let's just see the stats again. I did not see any of that game, admittedly. Coastal Carolina shot 45%, 19-20 from the free throw line. They had, again, 19 turnovers to 10 turnovers for the Wolfpack. Points all over turnovers. NC State, 17. Coastal Carolina, 9. So that's 8. And the game was a 12-point ball game. So how about NC State going 0 for 10 from 3? Coastal Carolina, 5 of 18. You don't usually see that. So we're going to go to points in the paint. And NC State had 42-34 points in the paint. So, and Coastal Carolina never did lead in that ball game, but they certainly gave the Wolfpack all they could handle. NC State 3-0. Coastal Carolina drops to 1-2. All right, so there was the basketball. Certainly a bad loss by Georgia State. Arkansas is better than Troy. That's fine, although I'm not really sure. I just don't think Troy played a very good ball game. All right, I just don't. I thought Arkansas missed a bunch of mid-range jumpers and open threes, and then in the second half, they didn't. They made them. And Troy kept on turning the ball over. All right, again, special guest. Plans are there to have a special guest to talk about, App State and Michigan. Slaying Goliath, and those are the plans. Again, we'll see if the plans fall through or not, because plans change. All right. And so we're not holding anybody to that, but that's the idea. That's why we did the week 12 preview today. All right. Looking forward to the conversation. We're going to do the whole episode on what is a 4-piece podcast on Slaying Goliath. So we'll have a special guest, we're hoping, on Friday's episode. The App State fans getting very, very excited. Appreciate it. All right. We're up over 1,620. We've had, over, I think 2,500 views this week through Wednesday. Really appreciate it. So it'll probably be, somewhere between, 3,500 and 4,000 view week. That's outstanding. We appreciate that very much. Trying to get to that, what did I say, 2025? That's pushing it. But we'll keep on going at it. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Have a great Thursday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Friday.